Imagine a world where you are part of a community that sees you for all that you bring and propels you to become your very best self. A world where everyone is valued for what they bring and everyone gets the support they need. Savor Exchange brings this dream to reality by empowering individuals, communities, and organizations with the right tools and resources to change the world. We do this by organizing people near and far around a goal or project and bringing them together and measuring their success. Our data analytical reports will provide information to support transparency and critical needs in today's world. The SaverX app acts as a secure bridge to multiple communities, including those defined by you, and allows everyone within their community to contribute time through service and request help for themselves. Members can also donate service credits, money, or goods back to their community. Go to www.saverxapp.com to learn more and start your Saver community today.
My name's Ginny Sassaman, and we're going to change gears and talk about the gross national happiness happiness dinners. And I see Paula is here, and I'm guessing that it's Paula Francis, but I don't know. Maybe you could put that in the chat. So as we get started, it's Paula, another former president of GNHUSA. So let me just start by saying this event is brought to you by Shiva Exchange. Give what you love and get what you need to get things done. Reinventing volunteerism by providing an easy-to-use web and mobile platform to discover one's passions through community service and to seek help when in need.
Do you want to turn to the question?
Yes, it's on the chat, but Pam, do you want to just say the question?
My question was just asking, like, I saw the Happy documentary. I forget the guy who did it, and they interviewed people in Bhutan about the GNH concept, gross national happiness, and I know some of you have gone to Bhutan to find out more as well, and I'm just curious what progress has GNHUSA made in the United States of either getting this to be any kind of economic anything or any measure of, an important measure, if not necessarily replacing GDP.
Great, thank you so much for that. And before trying to answer, I want to introduce Rob Moore, who has joined us. And you could not ask that question to a better audience, because in this group right here, you have two founding members of GNHUSA and three former presidents of GNHUSA, and which is Beth, Paula, and me, and the current president of GNHUSA. So Rob, as the current president, would you like to answer that question of how much progress you think we've made? Or I think, and Paula, you could jump in if you want to as well.
I think it's ongoing work. GDP answers one question, which is, what is the gross sum of market activity that the United States engages in? Is that a good proxy for welfare? It's one proxy for welfare. It doesn't capture a lot of things that we value in society, a lot of things that we connect with, well-being and happiness. And Paula has walked from coast to coast asking people what makes up happiness, and your job and your finances are a portion of that, but pretty secondary to things like social connections and psychological well-being and even spiritual growth. So we still have a lot of work to do. There are 4 states that have some legislation on the books around genuine progress indicator measurement, which is sort of a more comprehensive economic measure that takes in external costs that impact the environment, and things like cost of crime, value of volunteering, value of unpaid housework. I mean, these are all things that should be measured that are important. But you know, it's
which four
one
states,
small
Rob?
step.
Which four states?
Those states are Vermont, Maryland, Washington, and Hawaii. And in I'm gonna get a little ahead of ourselves, but we just passed our strategic plan for Gross National Happiness USA earlier this month. And one of the things that we're focusing on, one of the pieces of that is to be working with those states to see how well those are being implemented.
And I'll share one of the, I mean, it is of course ongoing work. What we're suggesting by saying we should move to this very different way of measuring well-being is obviously a huge shift from our very GDP economic growth focused economy. So it's not a shift that's going to happen easily, but I think there's much more awareness and there's pockets of change. Right now, the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a sizable city, and the surrounding county, Mecklenburg County, they have been working on developing basically a gross national happiness index. But this is with the elected officials, so they're not calling it happiness because that just is not likely, I don't think, to happen with US politicians. So it's the well-being index. And
two politicians who would join you, though. I can connect you to those two. They
No.
both ran for president, by the way.
Great.
Marianne Williams and
Right.
Andrew Yang, both of them.
So there are some, but so here in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, they are moving forward. They have been working on this for a couple of years and are about to share some of their survey results. And one of the reasons to me that what's happening in North Carolina is exciting is because it's very diverse. The population, it's much more a microcosm of, say, the US population as a whole than, say, Vermont, which is a very white state. So this is, the effort actually is being led by two Black politicians who are at the county level. And I love that because the happiness movement needs to be everybody. So there is real action. There also for quite a while was a really great framework in place in Santa Monica, but they've shifted over and are doing some other work in Santa Monica right now. So awareness, I think, is growing and we have a ways to go. So Paula, Beth, you want to say anything or should we drop back to?
I don't really have anything to add, but I do have to drop off to get ready for my next session. But it was a pleasure being here with you. And
Beth, can you put your Zoom on the chat? That would be really helpful for us.
Yes, let me find that, and I will do that before I go. Thank you.
I can do it if you want. I can find it. I just want to make sure. Do you want me to do it?
No, I can do it. I can do it. You keep participating.
So I had thought, but then we jumped way ahead, that maybe, welcoming Rob on board, the new president. I didn't know if Rob, if you wanted to kind of ask why we started GNH, or you could share some of what GNHUSA is doing now, or
Yeah, I think it'd be great for the folks who are on this call for you and Paula to talk about how GNHUSA started.
Can I ask one question? This is Pam. Rob, can you just repeat the four states, Vermont, Maryland, Washington, Hawaii, are working on what kind of legislation? Because they weren't calling it the same thing as GNH. So what was it called?
Genuine progress indicator.
Thank you.
No problem. Bye, Beth.
Bye,
So, yeah.
Beth. Thank you.
Yeah, we were just talking about how GNHUSA started. So go ahead, Ginny.
Sorry, I'm admitting someone who was in the waiting room. So I think that GNHUSA got started after another co-founder and friend of ours, Linda Wheatley, had been in Bhutan and came back very inspired by the concept of gross national happiness, which was named and was in the works and being developed in Bhutan. And so we had a conference and brought together various speakers to start examining how to make this concept live in the United States. And then also formed an organization to keep it going beyond the conference, and have engaged in various projects through the years, including the Happiness Walk, which Paula might want to talk about more, and also the Happiness Charter and Happiness Dinners are some of what we've been doing, along with, for example, working with the state of Vermont on developing the genuine progress indicators. Michael Mosier, who's on our board, is has been doing a lot of data work and measuring how happy Vermonters are, and he's done that a couple of different years, so that the results can be compared one to another. So really developing a set of measures that works. So that's some of what we've done. And I think also we've tried to just help spread the word, just through media appearances and conferences, and just help raising the idea so that people know that it's a viable option that we can work on together. Paula, Rob?
You're not coming through for some reason, Paula.
Yeah, cannot hear you.
Well, while you're trying to work on that, one of the things that we focus on, like one of the sort of like big projects that GNHUSA has been doing for years now, is the Charter for Happiness. And we've had thousands of people who have signed on to this charter, supporting happiness and saying that happiness should be a more central part of measurement of well-being and happiness and informing policy in the United States. So, Ginny, do you want to talk about where the Charter for Happiness came from? And
Sure. So, GNHUSA really started in Vermont. Paula was in Vermont at that time, and I'm in Vermont, and two others, Linda Wheatley and Tom Barefoot. And in 2014, the four of us talked about how we really needed to make it more of a national organization. And so we worked on establishing a national board. And in some of the early conversations with the national board, I think that I remember someone suggesting that we should have a charter that people could sign. Because again, this is a big change. And change can happen from the top down, or change like a presidential candidate who says, let's do this, or change can happen from the bottom up. And so to help build momentum and build support from the bottom up, we decided to draft this charter for happiness. And we unveiled it in, I think, June of 2016 as part of the Happiness Walk. I got to be with Paula for this particular part of the walk. We were at a farmer's market in Santa Fe, New Mexico, when we first started collecting signatures. So this is on the GNH website. Everyone can sign it. You can share it with others, and it's a great tool for helping to spread word and also helping for people to get more engaged themselves, more personally invested in the happiness movement.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the headphones weren't working. Sorry about that. So I guess what I was going to say is that ultimately what we want to do is work ourselves out of needing an organization. So
Right.
to be at the place where in the United States, we actually understand and then implement different ways of thinking about progress and success to include the well-being of all people, the animals, and the health and well-being of the planet as well. So that's our ultimate goal, is to get to that place where our policies are reflective of the well-being of everything.
Okay.
But in the meantime, there's a lot of education that has taken place over the years. And in the time that we began, 2008, when we first came together, I just want to say there's been a lot of progress in terms of people understanding not only the value of moving to a different way of considering progress and success, also a great understanding that it's possible. And thirdly, people are, I think the education has really worked, so people are actively working towards that end. So
Yes,
I think, yeah.
you've really seen that, I think, on the Happiness
Yes.
Walk again, when
Yeah.
I was with Paula in Santa Fe in 2014, was very interesting because multiple people would say, oh, gross national happiness, doesn't that have something to do with Bhutan? And, you know, there was not necessarily a deep or sophisticated understanding of how a gross national happiness framework might work, but there was an awareness of it as a possibility, as an option, you know, far from, you know, DC or an academic setting where people would be really studying this. And also, it's been my experience, people kind of get it right away. There is a really strong awareness that the current system is not serving us. That, of course, when we measure success, if you think about it on a personal level, you know, success is not just how much money you have in the bank, but success is your health, your relationships, your community service, and same for the big system. And people just get it. It is not at all a hard sell. It's an instinctive understanding that this is a better way to go.
Yes, and I think it's worth adding that part of what we've been doing over the past decade or more is to make sure that any kind of measurements that we're promoting are reflective of what people value here in the United States. As Ginny said, this did spring from a movement that started in Bhutan, which is a very small, very homogeneous country. So part of what we've done is to make sure that we've listened to the people here in the United States so that the measures that we do use are ones that people are actively behind. And you heard Rob talk about the genuine progress indicators. There are many, many different ways to measure well-being out there, and whatever states or counties or towns or businesses. A lot of businesses are moving to alternative measures of well-being besides just looking at their bottom line. We just want to make sure that people understand there are very holistic measures that they can use to complement whatever measures they may currently be using or working towards.
Yeah, if you're interested in signing the chart for happiness, it's right in the chat there.
Thank
So
you,
go
Rob.
ahead and check that there. I wanted to make sure we had some time for questions, but before we got to that, today is International Day of Happiness, and this is a big day for us to do our happiness dinners, which has been a tradition we've been doing for, is it 7 years now that the happiness dinners have been going? So I'll go ahead and hand it over
This
to
is the
Paula
8th year. Infinity. What is that? Helen says that something about it's the 8th year. Something. The
The
infinite.
sign of infinity.
Yeah, something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's, Ginny and Paula, you want to talk about happiness dinners?
Well, I have the video queued up if we want to. Do we want to play the video? All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm so happy that I learned how to screen share. Of course, we've
By the
all
way,
learned.
Rob, you're very elusive. It's hard to get a hold of you. Can I connect with you at least on LinkedIn? Do you ever go on it?
Who did you say that to, Anita?
Rob Moore.
Oh, I'm elusive?
Yes, you're very difficult to get a hold of.
Come
Really?
on.
Yes.
That's interesting. How have you tried to contact me?
I tried initially through LinkedIn.
Let me.
Oh yeah, oops.
Here we go.
Wrong.
All right.
Here. Let me check my LinkedIn because I usually see my messages on there, but also I hate LinkedIn, but that's.
So here's a little video that one of our volunteers put together, I think maybe 2 years ago, that gives a nice flavor of a happiness dinner back when we could actually, have dinners physically together, which we will again.
International Day of Happiness is celebrated each year on March 20th. Consider hosting a happiness dinner and invite your guests to discuss what matters most in life. Here at Gross National Happiness USA, we have provided discussion guidelines for you on our website. Please share any photos you might take of your guests and video of your friends discussing what matters most in life. For more information, please visit our website at www.gnhusa.org.
So those pictures just give you some idea, some of the folks who've participated. I want to talk a little bit about the dinners and then ask Paula to talk a little bit about the dinners, because Paula and another friend and member of the board, Cheryl, have come up with some new questions just for this time that we're in. And so I have either hosted or been a guest at several of these dinners with the previous questions that we used to use. And to me, those questions, which really invite you to explore deeply your own personal happiness, have been so moving. Every experience I've had with this, it's a very, very special dinner as people really look within about what matters, what really matters to them, what is happiness really about to them personally. And going back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, I'm such a believer in the personal happiness because it helps us also understand how valuable it is. This is not, well, we're all here, so we all know this, but it's important, our own personal happiness and everyone else's personal happiness. So I think you would find that these questions, when asked in this context of all having dinner together, which now obviously would be via Zoom, but still, that has its rewards. Really creates a deep, personal, and rewarding experience. And Paula and Cheryl have looked at the questions anew to come up with some that might be even more valuable and meaningful to you all in this moment in time. Paula, you want to describe the new set of questions?
Yeah, so because we've done these dinners for 7 years, it's just another, it's a way to bring the conversation deeper, or to help people have maybe slightly different kinds of conversations with folks. And the idea about these conversations, like Ginny said, is really to learn how to be a good listener and how to communicate really well with one another. In these newer set of questions, we're mostly trying to get to how to listen to people who may have a slightly different perspective than yours, or a greatly different perspective of yours, and still be very compassionate in your communication and with a real deep sense of wanting to understand what another person has to say without judgment. And I think that's a real important communication style to hold through life, but particularly during these times when there seems to be a lot of either miscommunication or non-communication. So the idea would be to hopefully bring together people who aren't like thinkers. We talk to people who think like us all the time, but to have people in the room, with a virtual room, that can bring different perspectives, because ultimately, I think we can always come down to the point of view that we are more alike than we are different. Certainly that's what we've learned through the happiness walk, and I'm sure that you've all learned in the work that you do as well. So
Norland was mentioning, Paula, when you were on that, one of our only planning meeting for this event, friendships across difference. I liked that term.
yeah, it's nice. Yes, yes. And as Ginny was saying, relationships are really what matter most. I mean, it's clear through all the research that's been done. So how do you honor those relationships and build new relationships and connect with people from all walks of life? This is what our work is on this planet, I believe.
And as Paula said, and as I believe the walk has shown, we are more alike than we are different. And that, I think, is very hard to see right now. And sometimes I've been asked kind of, well, where's the hope? You know, where's the hope? And to me, the hope comes from the fact that really happiness is, at least, I don't know if it's universal, but it's a nearly universal value. And I think as the data from the walk will show when it's released, no matter where you might fall on sort of the political spectrum, people value the same things: family, service, health. And, you know, to me, there's such hope in that. If we can get to the point where we can say we may be very far apart in our political beliefs, and yet we both believe in, you know, taking good care of children or taking good care of elders. You know, if we can agree on the final goal, then we can have a more productive conversation about how to get there. And I think at the least, these conversations can help people step back from demonizing each other. It's like, it's the same.
It also, I think, Ginny, this goes back to you were talking about talking about personal happiness and societal happiness. Systems change. This is one way to, you know, to really help people to communicate on a very basic level so that we can have those harder conversations about how we change systems to create communities that support our well-being. So this is one of those projects in GNHUSA that I think really gets to that nexus that you were talking about.
Yes, yes.
And
So
we're running a little bit low on time here, so I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for questions. If you want to take part in a happiness dinner, in an hour, I'm going to be hosting a virtual happiness dinner for 2 hours, and you can just pop in and pop out whenever you want to. If you're like Anitha and you've been trying to find me on LinkedIn and can't find me amongst all the sea of Rob Moores, this would be a good way to talk to me. But I'll be on there from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I'll be ordering from my favorite burger place here in town and just sitting here and talking to people. So
I've got 5 more hours of these calls. We'll have to
Hey,
be
and-
another day.
well, you can also email me. I dropped my email address
I got it.
in the chat. So, but yeah, we only have 5 more minutes. I want to make sure we have time for questions. So what kind of questions do folks have?
I just want to say there can be happiness dinners on other days other than today. So, let's all just have dinner together sometime. And
I'm having my lunch now. I had to eat.
yes. So someday,
Yes.
maybe one question that people could address, although this is asking you all a question rather than you ask.
How about let's let them ask some questions before we get to questions we want to ask them.
Okay. It's okay.
We could ask them what matters most in life to everybody here. Or you could ask us a question.
Yeah, let's leave it open. Comments or questions?
Rob, there's a question in the chat of, has the feedback from participants shown any preference for being virtual versus in person for the dinners?
I haven't seen any of the feedback on dinners from last year. Paula, did you see any of that?
We have not collected any data on virtual versus in person. I think my instinct would be that in person gets you a richer conversation. There's so much more that can come from that. And this is the first year that we're actually offering this like virtual option because of the pandemic. So
I think last year, the pandemic was like brand new in our lives. And I don't know how much people had even thought, oh, we could have dinner over Zoom. Yeah,
Right.
at that point.
New world.
Yeah, we're still figuring that stuff out. I'm still not sure if I can have dinner over Zoom. That's allowed, right?
Yes. Final comments before we all say goodbye? For
Thanks
now.
for getting us together, Ginny. This is great.
And
Thank you, Ginny.
all
Thank you, Rob.
folks for being here with me too. Okay.